For elect. First of all, to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who teach us the truth and rule well. And peace, love, and salutation and blessing unto the hopeful elect. Those who are waking up to this truth and sincerely hastening the day that the Heavenly Father Yahweh is going to send his son Yahweh Shai to deliver the elect of Israel while destroying our enemies. And the true Israelites are you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as those who are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Many of our people will look like the different nations under the sun. Yet, if you've been given the gift of this truth and faith in your bloodline and lineage, it goes back to the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm your brother Ramar Kimyan from Great Millstone, Miami. And for the topic of this lesson, I want to go into how we have been made stewards of the Lord's kingdom. We have been made stewards of the Lord's kingdom. This is actually, down here in CMS Miami, we have a word of the week, something to meditate about. Sometimes you do a lesson about it, or just every brother, comes up with a word of the week after week. And the word for the week is steward. When you go into the definition, it is a person responsible for managing, supervising, or protecting something, such as property, finances, or resources on behalf of another. And we have been given the treasure of this kingdom through the Holy Spirit on behalf of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. The Most High through his Son has given us stewardship. Really, this is like having the greatest responsibility that anyone on earth can have, because we are stewards. We are supervising over the Lord's kingdom, because the kingdom is who? The kingdom is within us. Lord willing, we are the elect, and the elect Jake that's going to be saved when Yahweh shall come. The Lord has given us responsibility from the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone on down to be watchmen, to look out for each other's souls, to manage this truth, to break down these words the right way, to teach this truth, to build one another up, iron sharpeneth iron, to be defenders of the gospel. This is the kingdom that we are taking care of, because the kingdom begins within us. Luke 17 and 20, it says, and when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of the host of the Most High should come, he, Yahushua that is, answered them and said, the kingdom of the Most High cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, lo here, or lo there, for behold, the kingdom of the Most High is within you. Is the kingdom of the Most High is already among these people, and it's through those on the earth who have the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. There is going to be an actual physical kingdom that we're going to have. We're going to have the streets of gold. Jerusalem is going to be paved with precious jewels. We're going to have a chariot on every one of our dwelling places. We're going to have the heathens in captivity and slavery. But first, the kingdom begins over here through the elect waking up, because these are the men who is going to be ruling in the kingdom. That's why the Lord is building us up now. These are the people, beginning with the elect, who are going to be the progenitors of the rest of Jake, who's going to come back in the kingdom and populate the earth. These men that you see right now on the streets and preaching this word, prophesying, the brothers that we dealing with each other, these are the men that Yahushua is going to be joint heir with him, ruling. So the kingdom is within us, and we have to take this truth, very, very seriously, this responsibility that we have to flip these talents, to have oversight over each other, make sure brothers are good, make sure brothers are growing in the spirit, checking brother if you have to, or checking on a brother, doing what you can for the Lord's kingdom. Let me grab this right here. Matthew 13 verse 44. It says again, The kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in the field, the which, when a man has found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he has, and buyeth that field. Right. So going back to the word, to the definition for steward, it's a person responsible for managing, supervising, or protecting something, and that's this kingdom, this treasure that we have found with this truth. You know, this truth that we have found, man, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai, and for joy, because you get it. You understand that, man, the Lord has really has given you something more precious and priceless than anything that you could think of, than anything on this planet Earth, which is this truth and this faith, and taking part of this beautiful ministry. So understanding, what the Lord has given you, and you understand it more and more after you come into this truth, and you go through tribulations, you go through trials, you go through ups and downs, you shine, you blessed, and you still under curses, you got to call, you continuously calling out to the Lord, but you thank Him. All of that is part of this, but you realize more and more what you are involved in, and this gonna last forever. Man, this is, man, what we are currently in right now. For the sincere brothers and the sisters, who are sincere and watching, what we got right now with this truth and this faith, man, we got immortality. For you brothers, man, we finna rule forever. We ain't finna die. Even if a brother is a martyr, it ain't death, because you finna wake right back up. Not having to be born as a little baby again. No. What we got, man, we gonna be forever young. We finna rule over the earth, throughout the galaxies, because of how you was being a steward, a good steward for Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, taking care of this treasure that you found. So for joy thereof, you go and you sell all that you have, and you buy that field. And that's what brothers, have done. You gotta. It's a continuous thing of sacrificing the flesh, sacrificing things of this world. For this truth. So brothers can handle things. So things can be handled. Camp is handled. Fellowship is handled. This, and that. If brother is in need, you sacrifice so you can help. The Lord puts you in the truth. The Lord put us in this truth. So it's up to us, Lord, when we have the hopeful elect, to be good stewards, to be good servants, to serve. So and it comes with the suffering, but you know what the scriptures say: if you suffer with Yahushua, you're gonna be glorified with Him. So ultimately, it's a beautiful thing when you think of how, wow, man, the kingdom. The Lord has given us responsibility to manage according to our lots, but to be responsible over His kingdom, because His kingdom is within us. The kingdom is within His men who believe, the sisters, His daughters who believe. It's an amazing thing. Let me get this. Let me get this. Luke chapter 12. Let me go straight to the point. Verse 42. It says, and the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. We waiting on Yahushua's arrival. And the Lord has given us His unction. He's given us His Spirit. He has given us this responsibility. If you're a householder and you leave your house of servants, you give responsibility to your servants over managing of your household. Luke 12:42, it says, and the Lord replied, a faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. And from the apostles on down, this responsibility, according to different measures, has been spread out to his servants, to his stewards. And we all have to look at this precept for those of us in the truth, for those of us who's teaching this word, posting up lessons, teaching out at camp. We have been given something very, very serious now. That's why you got to rightfully divide the word of truth. That's why you got to study to show yourself approved. Matter of fact, let me get that. 2 Timothy 2:15, it says, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be shamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You have to do that. And look, it even says be a good worker in the NLT, a good worker, a good steward, a good servant. Not needing to be ashamed, because you put in the work, you take this thing seriously. You need to get this breakdown, get that breakdown. It's all on YouTube. You need to stay in tune with the apostles, stay in tune with the brothers, stay in tune with the spirit. Pay attention in class when brothers having class and fellowship, because you teaching the Lord's word. You a steward. And not just that, the things that we do daily on our own time. Don't bring no shame to the ministry. Make sure you're not doing that. Which means you just ain't gonna be out here in the world when brothers are not around you, just being crazy, or being foolish. No, we have to make sure that we on point, understanding that we are representatives of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai and of the kingdom. Let me see what we could get. Matthew 25, verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. All right, so Yahweh Shai, we waiting for him to come back, but we have been given the spirit of Yahweh Shai. So we got to prophesy, we got to bring this word out. And these are the gifts that the Lord has given us. Prophecy, charity, praying, healing, all these different things that makes up the ministry. And the Lord gives these different gifts to different brothers in different measures. Verse 15, it says, unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. So some 5, some 2, some 1. Verse 16, then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same and made them other 5 talents. Right, we have responsibility to flip what the Lord has invested in us. To flip what the Lord has given us. The Lord gave us a responsibility, man. The Lord has entrusted us with this word, with this truth, with being a part of this ministry, with being around his little ones, his little children. Lord willing, we his little children ourselves. You look at it, Lord willing, you his little children. Lord willing, I am. The Lord has put us around his little ones. You got a YouTube page, you got this and that. Flip. Verse 17, it says, and likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth and hid his Lord's money. And you got those who, going to hear about this truth, it sound cool to them or it sound sweet to them, but they don't do nothing about it. They don't take this as a responsibility to stand up for their nation, to stand up for righteousness, to be about their father's business. That's messed up. That really is messed up. Verse 19, after a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and bought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest up me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. And what that's going to look like, hey, you got this truth, and you continuously grew in the truth. You was a good brother. You was charitable. You had energy and good energy rubbing off on brothers, and his brothers came, under you, and that they learn from you, or brothers older than you didn't learn from you. You've been in the spirit. You've been fighting good fight of faith. You've been praying for brothers. You've been learning. You're able to, you able to break down what you believe in this truth that we got to stand for, without no shame in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. You've been being built up since you got this truth. That's what that flipping talent's gonna look like. It says, behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. Verse 21, his Lord said unto him, well done, thou good and faithful servant, or good and faithful steward. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Man, that's what we all want to hear. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. It's the other precept where it said the Lord gonna give you 10 cities. Be ruler over these 10 cities. Be ruler over these 5 cities. And the Lord literally going to do that in the kingdom plus more, though. We know the Lord going to prepare a place for us, the whole universe. But even on the earth, which is the crown jewel, this kingdom going to be set up, and the Lord going to set you over this province, set you over that province, set you over that city, that city. You know what I'm saying? You got your spot in Jerusalem, your forever spot in Jerusalem, the actual city in Jerusalem, and then you're going to have a something on this corner of the earth, and that corner of the earth, and that corner of the earth. Over here, over there, the Lord make you a ruler. Because you took these responsibilities seriously. And in the kingdom, to have responsibilities ain't no sweat. Ain't no sweat. Ain't gonna be, bro. In the kingdom, to be ruling over the town and the city, it's all gonna be good. It ain't gonna feel like work at all. We gonna be vibing in the kingdom forever. You just gonna be straight up ruling with a rod of iron, executing vengeance, and you gonna love to be fixing the earth, getting these heathens in check, and taking their and boasting in their forces and their resources. It says, enter down into the joy of the Lord. That's the kingdom, man. Verse 22, he also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. So you're going to have brothers with a different measure, putting in the work, but as long as Yahweh shall come, he find you doing, you're going to be called a good and faithful servant. You done flipped your talents. The Lord gave you 2, you done turned into 4. The Lord gave you 3, you turned into 6. The Lord gave you 5, you turned into 10. Verse 23, it says, his Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. Let me read that in NLT. It says, then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Excuses. I was afraid I would lose your money. Excuses. So I hid it in the earth. Laziness. Look, here is your money back. It make no sense. So you basically, when Yahweh shall come, I know I'm an Israelite. You told me I'm an Israelite. you gonna have Jake like that. I knew I was an Israelite. That ain't gonna cut it. That is not gonna cut it. The bare minimum. Verse 26, it says, his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant. See, the Lord called him slothful. You know what it is. He being wicked and he being lazy. Thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. The Lord coming to judge anyways. You know what the Lord coming to do. Verse 27, thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talents from him, and give it unto him which has 10 talents. For unto everyone that has has shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that has not shall be taken away even that which he has. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So it's like, man, it's beautiful to be a steward of the kingdom of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Because on the other side of that, it really ain't no gray area. Either you gather with the Lord or you scattering. You know? Let me get this. Scattereth. Let me see if that comes up. Gather with me. Let me see. I can't find that precept, but basically, how was I saying? He that doesn't gather with me scattereth abroad. So you want to make sure that you gathering with Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And a lot of these Jake, they think that it's a gray area or they could just lollygag and this and that. Man, the Lord has given his, he has given stewardship to his kingdom to men on the planet Earth. You got to find out whether you're going to fit that bill or not. Find out this truth. You're an Israelite. For those of us in Great Millstone in these camps, man, we right here, man. It's a beautiful thing to be taken a part of. It's a beautiful thing to be taken part of. You want to take it seriously, understanding how beautiful this is, man. Wow, the Lord about to save these people and build up his kingdom with the men that you're around, that you learning from, or that you teaching. This is the kingdom of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. The Lord has placed a measure of responsibility into your hands. So 1 Peter 4:10, it says, as every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of the Most High. So yeah, as every man has received the gift, this variety of gifts, and the way the Lord lets it play out, so beautiful. Do it, minister, serve one another. It's good stewards, it's good servants of the manifold grace of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. So Lord willing, this is edifying. Give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakadash, and double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and peace, love, and salutations to the whole full elect. Kwame Yasharala, Shalom.